Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. There's been a stabbing at the jail in Windsor with a correctional officer being sent to hospital. Plus, a charge has been dropped in the case of the Ambassador Bridge blockade. And flying squirrels were once extinct in our region 30 years ago. There were efforts to bring them back. Point Pelee National Park with an update on that tonight. A corrections officer at Windsor's jail has been stabbed by an inmate. That's according to the union. As Jacob Barker tells us, workers say the province's relaxed rules are making the job more dangerous.
It's pretty common for an inmate to be taken from their cell to appear in court on video. But yesterday morning, one situation took a violent turn.
Upon exit of that cell, he attacked one of the officers and left lacerations, as well as puncture wounds on his face and neck.
Healthcare staff responded immediately, according to the union, escorting the officer out of the jail to the hospital. DiGiacinto says the officer received stitches at the hospital and is now recovering at home. In a written statement, the Ministry of the Solicitor General says that it's aware of an incident at SWDC in which a staff member was injured. It says violence within provincial correctional facilities is unacceptable, and the ministry has zero tolerance when it comes to assault or threats against staff. DiGiacinto says that policies and procedures were followed throughout the incident. She says she's seen staff assaults increase over time.
I've seen staff assaults increase over time. The violence across the jails, across the province, are increasing. There is essentially minimal consequences for inmates and their actions.
An issue in particular, says DiGiacinto, is the reduced use of segregation. The province placed restrictions on putting inmates with mental health issues in segregation in 2013.
They're essentially not allowed to stay in segregation for longer periods of time. So even if they're assaultive, combative, violent, the ministry still wants us to put them into a regular unit, time out of cell.
She says inmates need to be held accountable for their actions.
There needs to be harsher punishments for these set of actions of inmates in the jails. Staff assaults are serious, and they need to be treated as such.
She says she does expect there to be charges because Windsor Police did attend the scene. The Ministry of the Solicitor General says that there is an investigation underway both by police and the ministry. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
A charge has been dropped against someone the police previously identified as an Ambassador Bridge blockade organizer. A single charge of mischief to property against William Laframboise was withdrawn on March 6 for actions that happened during the blockade 2 years ago. It's the end of a nearly 2-year legal battle for the 42-year-old. Laframboise admits he was at the protest, but said he had nothing to do with organizing any of it. He tells CBC News he's happy the charge has been withdrawn, but said he wanted to go to trial to prove his innocence. He said there was no new evidence for the Crown to change their minds and that it was all there from the beginning, going on to say that the Crown just wasted court time. Now, back on February 7th, 2022, large numbers of people arrived in Windsor and blocked traffic around the Ambassador Bridge. It was a way to protest government COVID-19 measures in place at the time. 6 days later, police from across Canada helped clear the road. Charges against Nicole de Credico, a local woman also accused of organizing the Windsor blockade, were dropped late last year. Even though his charge has been dropped, Laframboise says his name is still attached to the allegations and he fears it will affect his employment as a trucker and his ability to cross the Canada-U.S. border. The Cuyahoga, one of the oldest ships still sailing in the Great Lakes, was on fire in Lake Erie this afternoon. The U.S. Coast Guard said on X, formerly known as Twitter, that the ship's master and crew are accounted for. A county east of Cleveland deployed resources to put out the blaze. U.S. Coast Guard investigators have been sent to the scene. Unifor Local 444 is vowing to find jobs for workers at Windsor's Dakota Integrated Systems, saying the company has given notice there's no future production at the plant.
And their spirits are up because they believe in the union. That's why they believe in the union. So, I mean, there was obviously some anxieties, but You know, they believe in the union. They know that we're going to make sure that they land in the spot.
The news comes after Stellantis awarded a parts contract to CPK Interior Products, another auto parts manufacturer. Dakota produces instrument panels for minivans built at the Windsor assembly plant. Unifor says they'll be negotiating collective and closure agreements, adding that workers are entitled to severance pay. That contract runs until August. Would you trust an orange monster who insists he doesn't eat kids? That's the theme of a new book by Tecumseh-based children's book illustrator and writer Marcus Cutler. CBC spoke with the artist at his home.
I Do Not Eat Children is a picture book. It's about a monster who likes to talk about how he doesn't eat children and how he loves children and how he would never, ever eat children, all while all the children around him seem to be disappearing one at a time. He's not to be trusted, but most of the kids in the book are a bit too distracted to notice, except for one. Yeah, I want him to look a little bit sinister and a little bit goofy all at the same time. I used to play a game called Monster with my two daughters where I would attack them like I was a monster and pretend to eat them, and I'd grab them and I'd say, "Arr!" and they'd say, "Stop eating us." And I'd say, "I'm not eating you, I don't know what you're talking about." So that was where it came from. I've been illustrating children's books for over a decade now, I'd say, probably. I've always been a drawer. I used to want to be a comic book artist when I was a kid. I liked to draw Spider-Man and Superman and Batman. When you have kids, you kind of start telling them stories and making up a lot more ideas. It's the most fun thing. They're great. Kids are a great audience. I share their sense of humor, I think, so it works well. The artwork that you make for kids is really fun to make. It's, you know, you can be silly, you can be goofy, you can, you know, be a little bit scary, but not too scary with monsters and things like that. But yeah, so it's a joy to do every day.
A Windsor Trumpeter has been nominated for a Juno. Russ Macklem is up for Jazz Album of the Year, which was recorded live at the Fog Lounge here in Windsor. Next week, he will be back at that location for a pre-Junos show. Windsor Morning spoke with him earlier about his humble start.
It happened by mistake when I was in 7th grade. I did not want to play music or the trumpet. I loved music, but I had no intention of doing it. And my best friend was going to play the trumpet because his father was a trumpet player, so I wanted to sit beside him. It sort of came after months of just, you know, making sound on this thing and dragging it to school early to get help. And eventually I kind of started to turn around, and I remember, you know, about 2/3 of the way through the year, it's like, well, I guess I'm getting kind of good at this. I still wasn't the best in the class, but I was like, yeah, this is not bad.
How does it feel to be nominated?
There's a word for it. It's grateful. You know, ultimately, I feel like, you know, years of work and sacrifice and everything like that, it's sort of makes me feel validated also as an artist.
More than a month after signing up with a sports betting account, some gamblers are still waiting for their money, and they're pushing for Ontario Lottery and Gaming to pay up. As Loretta Redicop reports, they have no idea when they'll actually be paid.
For Val Strambu, it all goes back to Super Bowl Sunday. He's not even a football fan, but his daughter and her boyfriend told him about a special by OLG Proline.
If you took a $50 bet, they would give you $500 bonus money to bet.
He signed up for an account, put down his bet using his credit card, and he picked Kansas City. It was a big windfall, more than $1,100, but the money didn't get deposited. The message still showing up as unverified, bank account pending verification. He's reached out to OLG, told it's due to an influx of new players.
I uploaded a picture of my void check. It's a Canadian bank. They have my branch number, my account number. What's there to verify, you know?
The message also said contacting customer service will not expedite the process.
So to me, this translates to like, we're doing a terrible job. Stop bothering us. Like, there's no accountability whatsoever there.
He's not the only one left waiting weeks for his money. Carl Joe placed a number of bets on a range of sports, including basketball and hockey. He's owed more than $2,000. OLG's website says it should take less than 5 business days, but may take longer. Joe has done sports betting online through other companies and never had a problem.
I've actually not had any issue withdrawing from those sites. Usually it's being like almost instant within 24 hours.
Ontario Lottery and Gaming won't comment on how many people are still waiting for their money. The corporation says it's working through the backlog of new sign-ups leading up to the Super Bowl and working to verify bank accounts as quickly as possible according to the iGaming standards in this province. It also says delays in the verification process can be exacerbated if additional documents or information are required, which is often the case. Neither of the people we talked to has heard anything back from OLG. The experience has left both of them frustrated.
You think OLG, the OLG inspires trust, or it did inspire trust anyways. If it was like a no-name betting application, then I probably would have thought this is a scam.
If you have a problem with this type of issue, you report it to some like government entity. But in this case, this is the government.
The Office of Ontario's Ombudsman confirms it's the one that would look into any complaints about this. However, it doesn't confirm whether it has received any complaints about a particular issue. Meanwhile, OLG gave no indication of how long people might be waiting for their money. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Point Pelee National Park is home to many different species. In fact, the park has the largest number of endangered species living in the area than any other national park in Canada. One of the more unique critters that makes Point Pelee home are flying squirrels. I headed out to Leamington to meet up with ecologist Crystal and Taya to learn more. And what are the chances of us seeing a flying squirrel today?
Very low. Right now they're still in hibernation. They're not very active this time of year.
When people find out that there are flying squirrels in the park, what do they think? What do they say?
People are usually pretty excited. It's not something that a lot of people know that we have here at Point Pelee, so they're excited to learn something new and something unique. We had a population of flying squirrels here. They were extirpated in around 1940. And they were reintroduced in the park in 1993 and 1994. Point Pelee is the only place in southwestern Ontario that you can find flying squirrels because we have really great habitat for them here. But we think the population is roughly stable from when they were introduced about 30 years ago. So this is one of the trees that we monitor for flying squirrels. We put our trap high up in the tree. So we have a band here. This is just one of our numbers on one of our trap lines. And what makes this a really good habitat for flying squirrels here at Point Pelee is we have these large oak trees all around us, and those have different little crevices for the flying squirrels to nest in and to call home. They do look like squirrels. They're a bit regular tree squirrels. They're a bit smaller. You'll notice that they have really white bellies. They have sort of a gray-brown back, and then they have a flap of skin that runs between their arms to their legs, and that actually helps them glide between trees. So it's a little bit of a misnomer to call them flying squirrels because they're not actively flying like maybe a bat or a bird would. So they actually glide between the trees. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of very forested areas, especially in Windsor, Essex County, and the squirrels really do need a good area of forest to live and survive and thrive and grow and be healthy. Yeah, so they give us a good indicator of the biodiversity at the park, so how many animals call Point Pelee home. And biodiversity is important for a number of reasons, but it helps keep the ecosystems and the habitat in balance.
As March break is wrapping up, we go back to 1987 to check out some of the spring break festivities happening in Windsor for the teenagers who weren't able to get somewhere warm. This report done by former CBC Windsor reporter Joy Malbin.
It's not exactly California, but it's the closest these students will get to playing on the beach. About 30 teenagers who can't leave the city for spring break ate free pizza and partied at the Teen Health Center. It's a non-profit counseling service for teenagers. The kids dressed the part for this Malibu party. It not only beats the winter blues, but it's actually a promotion for a new fitness program for teens. For these girls, it's a great way to ease into a diet and exercise plan. But there are other students who simply aren't interested in getting fit. They want to have fun. and this is the place to do it during the March break.
And go visit all the girls in Florida. Having a good time. Partying.
If only we could get this nice weather for St. Patrick's Day Sunday. Coming up, we'll tell you if you need your winter jacket or spring one to go drink your green beer this weekend. At least 3 people have been killed in western Ohio after suspected tornadoes ripped through the region last night.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Dozens of people were injured, and police say more bodies could be found in the wreckage. Many homes and buildings were left damaged, and power was knocked out for thousands. Funnel clouds were also spotted in eastern Indiana. About 40 people were reported injured. The storms were part of a huge system that stretched from Texas to Pennsylvania and put more than 45 million people under threat of severe weather. Well, happy St. Patrick's Day weekend to everyone who celebrates. Hopefully, Victor Paulo has a lucky weather forecast for us.
Happy Friday, Windsor. Well, it's going to be some fog patches overnight tonight, which we're expecting, but by the time we begin our Saturday, there's going to be some rain passing by. Now, when it comes to the rest of our week, we're expecting some flurries, but they're not going to arrive until about Monday. We're not expecting a large accumulation. Of course, don't forget, because of all the summer-like weather we've been having over the March break, the surface is still warm enough that once that snow does reach, it's going to melt just as quick as it lands. Now, a quick look at what's going to be happening overnight tonight. Well, Windsor is going to be still very mild, 9 degrees, and as mentioned, we're expecting that precipitation to begin once we start our Saturday. Now we're talking about rainfall accumulation. How much rain is going to fall over Windsor and the surrounding area? Well, by the time it's about Sunday morning, we're expecting close to about 5 millimeters to fall. Nothing close to 10, nothing close to 20, but it's going to be enough that it'll be consistent over the day of Saturday that you want to prepare to have an umbrella if you do go outside. Now that snow which we'll be expecting, well, a lot of that snow is not going to be on Saturday or Sunday as well. The snow will be coming on Monday. That's when we're expecting a lot of that snow to be arriving to Windsor. But again, it's not going to really last. And by the time it reaches the surface, a lot of it is going to melt, as mentioned, as quickly as it does fall. Now, here's what's happening when we're taking a look at our weather. Now, we're expecting, as we talked about, that rain to begin overnight. Here's what it's going to be around midnight tonight. And you can see the accumulation of the clouds. And as those clouds begin, when we're around Saturday morning, you can see that we're going to see that rain really start to hit closer to supper time. And it's going to last probably till about when we begin our Sunday morning. But when Sunday morning begins, it's going to be a pretty chilly start to the day in comparison to a lot of the mornings we had during the week. Now, there's nothing to worry about when it comes to the snow, when it comes to Saturday or Sunday again, because that snow is not coming until Monday. Now, quick look at our 3 and 5 day forecast. Well, it's going to be a beautiful Saturday, 13 degrees, no rain expected until about the end of the day. Sunday, we're expecting to see the temperatures drop in the wake of that rain, and Monday, we're expecting that snow to fall. Well, Windsor, hope you have yourselves a lovely night, and over to you.
Thanks so much for that, Victor. A mine might not be the ideal location to spend your free time, but it is for guests staying at a hotel in Wales. That story coming up after the break. Canada's Big Five banks are making tough financial times even tougher for their customers. That's according to a CBC Marketplace investigation. Bank employees say they're pressured to push products that can cause financial harm. A hidden camera test captures tellers upselling and financial advisors giving advice that's not just wrong, say banking experts. It's against the law. Erica Johnson has this report.
We're going undercover into Canada's Big Five banks.
I'm just here to make a deposit, actually.
Testing what happens when we approach the teller wicket.
We have a credit card limit increase for $8,000.
Oh, okay.
If you're qualified to get a pre-approved personal line of credit.
So you're able to get a credit card with us.
Current and former bank employees tell us the pressure to meet sales targets can be overwhelming, even lead to bad financial advice, says this BMO employee who recently quit. Someone else is reading his words to protect his identity. He still works in finance.
I felt like I had to mislead customers in getting products that they didn't need.
Lines of credit, credit cards, good for the bank, potentially bad for you.
You might not realize how much this is a dangerous thing to have. It can add up really fast.
This TD employee resorted to secretly recording coaching sessions with her managers. Someone else is reading one manager's words, heard pushing this employee to upsell customers.
You think of them a lot, so that's why you don't want to put force on them. It kind of backfires for you in meeting your goal.
TD says that conduct is completely unacceptable and not in line with the bank's policies. Back on hidden camera, we also visit financial advisors of the Big Five, ask about the fees we pay on mutual funds. Several advisors incorrectly say the fees are only charged on the profit, not the whole investment, like this BMO advisor.
They take it out of your returns.
The Bank Act spells out employees can't take advantage of customers. So this bank critic's take on our hidden camera test?
They're not only getting bad advice, they're getting illegal advice.
The Canadian Bankers Association says our findings do not represent the experience millions of Canadians have every day. We requested an interview with the federal finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. She declined, and when we caught up with her at an event,
we're hoping to speak to you about a story we're doing about sales pressure within the banks.
Freeland's office later sent a statement saying the government has zero tolerance for banks offering misleading or inappropriate advice and has added consumer protections to the Bank Act. Protections that were already in place when we did our hidden camera test and that critics say need to be enforced. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today rejected Quebec's request for full control over immigration in the province. He said Quebec already has more say in the matter than other jurisdictions, but Trudeau said he was open to discussing the matter further.
We're all about rolling up our sleeves and working with the provincial government to solve some of these challenges here in Quebec, but right across the country as well.
Trudeau met with Quebec's premier in Montreal today. The premier says he will explore ways to reduce the number of asylum seekers and temporary foreign workers in his province. They make up more than 500,000 people, and the premier says they're putting a strain on resources. Quebec already controls the number of economic immigrants to the province, but it shares responsibility with Ottawa when it comes to refugees, temporary foreign workers, and some other newcomers. 3 weeks ahead of the upcoming solar eclipse, it's already being commemorated. It's a Canada Post stamp that depicts what the moment of totality will look like as the moon's shadow passes over 3 Canadian provinces, one in Ontario, one in New Brunswick, and one in Newfoundland. An added feature, the stamp glows under backlight. A hotel in Wales is getting enthusiastic attention despite their guests getting shafted.
So not too tight that you will give yourself a headache.
That's because the shaft is the only way to the rooms, which are more than 400 meters underground. The Deep Sleep Hotel lies in an abandoned slate mine, so along with zip lines, narrow passages, and a terrifying catwalk, it also offers a look at history. The mine, which closed decades ago, has served as an extreme adventure playground in recent years. To maintain the Spartan motive, hotel guests get dinner in a sealed package, and not surprisingly, alcohol is prohibited. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week.